The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. It's time for Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Now, let's join your host, three-time National Wrestling Writer and Broadcaster of the Year, Jason Bryant.
Another episode of Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling as we're just past America's birthday, and we're talking with America's favorite wrestling coach, or at least those Americans who live in Blacksburg, their favorite wrestling coach, Tony Robie. Coach Robie, how'd you enjoy the 4th?
Well, we had a couple workouts, so it was good. It was a good weekend, I guess you could say. But we had all of our guys report back to campus on July 3rd. We've got some freshmen that are attending what they call Summer Academy here, which is basically Summer Session 2, that reported back on the 2nd. So we're kind of back into work mode, I guess you could call it, here at Virginia Tech and with the wrestling program and getting a good month of training in with the guys.
Yeah, good weather, good sweating weather up there this time of year.
It's just starting to get hot. It's actually been pretty mild, but yeah, it's it'll heat up here, I'm sure, once our camp starts. It always does, and we'll have some nice humidity going. But yeah, it's that time of year, so it's to be expected.
The question was how much did Ty Walls eat at the 4th of July barbecue is what I want to know, because he doesn't have to make weight for a while.
You know what? That's a good question. Ty Walls is actually out at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs currently, so he wasn't around. But I think that he's been indulging himself a little bit since June and since the trials out in Lincoln, Nebraska. And but he still looks pretty good. I've seen him a couple times. Prior to that, June was a pretty slow month for us around here. I went on vacation for a week. Ty went on vacation with his girlfriend and her family, so we've been crossing paths. And but he's still looking pretty good. He's lean and mean.
Now, when it comes to the coaching situation, of course, yes, folks, we do have some news to drop here. We're just it's been a while since Tony's actually been on the show, so we got to reacquaint ourselves with the life of a Division I wrestling coach. And so when you say go on vacation, for those who don't understand, what does vacation for a wrestling coach actually mean?
Well, for me, I guess it means that me and my family went to the beach with a couple other wrestling coaches and their families, and got to get a little bit of downtime for that week. But you're still recruiting, you're still doing some administrative work, but in terms of the actual day-to-day wrestling stuff, you get a little bit of break from that. So I tried to do as little work as possible just to keep my wife on my good side.
Yeah, because I'm wondering, and how quickly did you learn that you can't always bundle the vacation with a recruiting trip? Be like, hey, yeah, we're going to recruit this kid down at the beach. I'll just tell my wife we're going to the beach for the week. And yeah, that doesn't work very often, does it?
It doesn't work very well, yes. It's, family time's got to be family time, and you spend enough time working and away from the family, and even when you're at home. But the recruiting never stops. I mean, that's the bottom line is you're always in communication with recruits and with parents, and, if you're not, you're falling behind. So regardless of where you're at or what you're doing, that part of the job is always out there, and it needs to be out there if you want to be successful at it.
Not going to give away any trade secrets by any means, but as we're in the first week of July, and this is just basically like a traffic jam of coaches at some of the top recruits' doorsteps, because July 1 is the day where, all right, we can start talking to them, we can make the visits, and NCAA rules really prevent schools from even commenting on which athletes they're recruiting. But how busy was July 1 for the Hokie wrestling staff?
Pretty busy. I saw 3 kids on July 1st, so was up in Indiana and Ohio, and Coach Molinaro's been up to Pennsylvania to see a couple guys. Coach Frere actually is currently in Pennsylvania, and then he's going to go see another guy in Florida. He's actually not from Florida. He's on vacation in Florida, so he's going to see a kid down there, and so we're rolling. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been busy. We've been in front of a lot of kids, a lot of really good kids, so we're excited about it. But it's a grind. You got to keep grinding it out, and through the whole process and get the kids on campus for their official visit. A lot of these guys have already been on campus for an unofficial visit, but in a lot of cases, some kids are committing earlier, but in a lot of cases, kids are taking their 3, 4, or 5 official visits, which draws the process out, sometimes late into the fall. So we're coordinating official visits and just getting in front of kids, getting to know them a little bit better, and selling them on Virginia Tech.
Seeing a handful of kids, that means you've probably seen 3 or 4 handfuls of coaches. I mean, how many coaches do you cross with? Like, all right, I'm out the door and another one's coming right at you. You hear the stories back in the day about, Stan Abel crossing paths with Dan Gable in the driveway of people's houses, or I think Andre Metzger tells a story about having 3 coaches in his living room at the same time as he quizzes them. How often do you cross paths with, like, hey guy?
I actually haven't had that happen to me this year, but I mean, there's been in some instances where that and most of the kids that you're talking to and parents are pretty forthcoming that there was a coach in the house an hour before you and there's a coach coming an hour after you leave. So, for the most part, you try to coordinate that, or at least with the recruits and their parents try to coordinate it so you're not crossing paths in the driveway. But it does happen occasionally, for sure.
How much of the is there some friendly gamesmanship, or is it just like really cutthroat when you're on these visits with some of these other coaches that you might run into?
I think I don't know, there might be a little bit of gamesmanship, but I mean, we're just concentrating on what we can do for the student athlete and what we can sell to them and why Virginia Tech is such a great place and the opportunities that we can provide them and try to stay positive about what we have and try not to dive too far into other schools and other coaches, and you try to stay away from that part of it.
Well, let's start that question again. What's been one of the most common questions you've gotten from kids? I'm assuming that the coaching change has been something that they were wondering about and how the system would be consistent. But what's the top question you've been getting so far?
Probably just about the new staff and how they're fitting in with what we've been doing here, how they're fitting in with the guys on the team. And but to be honest with you, even that hasn't been a huge question. I mean, I think a lot of people are familiar with the coaches that we hired, and more than anything, I think that they're commenting on how impressed they were with the staff that we were able to put together in a pretty short period of time. And I think that would probably be the main topic of conversation, more so than a question. But it definitely is discussed a lot, and they're curious because some of these guys had come on unofficial visits prior to us having our new coaches in place, so they haven't had an opportunity to get to know them yet that well, at least in person. They've communicated through phone calls and text messages and things of that nature, but they're anxious to get on campus, meet the new coaches, meet the new coaching staff, talk to the guys on the team, and just get in this environment and see what this environment's all about.
Yeah, and part of that environment is the Southeast Regional Training Center, which the Regional Training Center boom is exploding through college wrestling, not just at the Division I level. There are Division II, Division III, and even NAIA schools with regional training centers. And big addition to the Southeast Regional Training Center as Tyler Graff will be coming on board. What are you looking forward to with Tyler Graff, and what was the real sales pitch to bring him to Blacksburg?
Well, Tyler had a relationship with Coach Freyer previously at Wisconsin. I think Tyler was there for 2 years when Jared was an assistant coach there, so they had a relationship and had spoke a little bit out at the trials. So Jared kind of got the ball rolling with it, and Tyler had kind of had a little bit of a strange training situation, at least for the last several months, where his wife had a job in Columbus, Ohio, and he was in Columbus, and he didn't really have a great, I guess we could say, great or an ideal training situation. He wasn't at the Ohio RTC. He was working out with, I think just getting workouts in where he could. Prior to that, he'd been traveling back and forth to Rutgers in 2 weeks there, 2 weeks in Columbus to be with his wife. So, we had just talked to him about putting himself in a position where he's got, realistically, he's got one more shot at making an Olympic team. He's been very close the previous 2 quads and has had some really good tournaments, has some really good wins under his belt. But it was just a matter of, trying to sell him on a situation where he could have some stability and at the same time be in an environment where he can accomplish his goals, and he's around 2 other guys that have made Olympic teams that can help coach and mentor him and train with him. And I think just being able to train with the guys here in the Virginia Tech wrestling program and where our program is at was a big selling point. And once we got him on campus, it was pretty much a done deal. I mean, he came down here much like a lot of people do, and Frank and Jared, and I think basically fell in love with just the area and the campus and Blacksburg itself. So I just think there was a ton of positives for him here, and I think his wife is in the engineering field, so I think we've got an opportunity for her as well at Virginia Tech, possibly. So it was, I think we made the situation kind of a no-brainer for him, and we're excited to have him. Obviously, he brings a heck of a lot to the table in terms of the success that he's had, both at the college level, was a 4-time NCAA All-American in Wisconsin. I think he placed 5th, 3rd, and 2nd at the NCAA championships, and his pretty impressive international freestyle resume, and he's a guy that's been knocking on the door for a long time, and I think if he gets in a good environment and a good training situation, he's going to be right in the mix in 2020 to make the team. That's kind of what the goal is.
Yeah, and he also kind of clears out the most recent Colorado guy was Gable the Goofball. Now you've got more grounded Colorado guy, right?
Yeah, we do have another Colorado. We like Colorado guys. Yeah, in fact, we do a little recruiting out there too. So, Tyler's is definitely a big name, and like I said, I mean, when you're a 4-time All-American, he's just going to be great for our lightweights in the room. Just being around them and mentoring them and helping them become better. I mean, he's a guy that lives the lifestyle. He's an incredible competitor, incredible worker, and really, when you're bringing people into your program, regardless of what capacity they're coming in as, you just want to make sure they fit the mold of what your philosophy is. And he's a tough guy. He works hard. He trains and lives the right way. And that's the message that we're constantly trying to convey to our athletes and the recruits that we're trying to get to come to Virginia Tech. So he definitely, he checked a lot of the boxes that we were looking for.
Now, I'm joking as I mentioned Austin Gable, just because we need to throw the A-Town Boogie under the bus every now and then, just to keep it light. But as we go back to Tyler Graff and we go his Performance World Team Trials, it was interesting as I was sitting there watching the tournament from the announcer's table there to see now there's Jared Freyer in burnt orange and maroon, and then there's Molinaro, who had recently shaved his head. 1, where did Frank's hair go? And 2, seeing, there's McFadden's wrestling at the junior tournament. I mean, it just seemed like automatically you saw that, okay, this is a real thing. There's the Southeast Regional Training Center. There's Hokies on the mat. This is real now.
Yeah, I think, one of my goal, and I, stated this a lot publicly when I took over, one of the things that we were going to try to do for the Southeast Regional Training Center is just develop a presence at the international level, both, or I guess at the domestic level first, in international styles of wrestling. And getting Frank here was obviously a big deal, a guy who's still competing, and for him to be competing for the Southeast Regional Training Center is big. I know he didn't quite have the result that he wanted at the trials, but obviously a guy that's, I think I looked at the rankings, he's ranked for the top 15 in the world at his weight class, and is probably better than that. And just extending our freestyle presence and making that a larger part of our program in the off season. And I feel like we did a pretty good job with that. Sent a bunch of guys up to the University Nationals, and we had a lot of guys that we sent up there that had never wrestled in a freestyle tournament or had maybe wrestled in one local freestyle tournament when they were in high school. We had 4 or 5 guys that had very little experience, but it's definitely something we're going to emphasize moving forward with our program and with our athletes, and then getting another resident athlete here like Tyler, along with Ty Walls and along with Frank, who are still competing and are competing competing at a very, very high level. All those guys placed, Ty, I think, was 5th. Tyler ended up 4th, and then Frank was 2nd at the trial. So, our goal now is to put those guys in a position and provide them with the resources necessary that they can make some teams and represent the Southeast Regional Training Center on a world team or on an Olympic team and represent Virginia Tech.
What are some things that you can take away from guys like David McFadden's performance on where that off-season work in freestyle is going to help him for the season, getting back on the mat and in that lineup?
Overall, I thought David wrestled pretty good. I think that he was probably, from just in terms of evaluating it and not so much looking at wins and losses, getting to the legs of his opponents as well as I've ever seen him do in his career here at Virginia Tech. I know he spent a lot of time with Frank, just drilling and working on some stuff. Really did a nice job getting to his opponent's legs. He definitely needs to get better in some areas. There's no question about that. Finishing takedowns. He struggled a little bit especially in that 3rd, 4th place match at the trials. Was all over the guy's legs, and the guy's a funky guy. He's tough to finish on, and in freestyle, it's a little bit more difficult even when you're in those positions. So, the takeaway from that was I just think that he competed hard. He was, I think, did a good job preparing for the competition, and that's really where you make your gains in the off season. It's not only that you're competing in these events, in these freestyle events, but the preparation that you have for the month or two leading up to the competition is going to pay dividends for him down the road. And anytime you get an opportunity to compete against high level competition, it's good for you. And it's good to get exposed a little bit to know where you need to work. And David got exposed in a match or two, and he knows where he needs to improve. But overall, I'm excited about his development. I think he's going to be, he's going to come out of the gate strong next year, and expect big things from him.
Well, as we talk about next year already, we got guys, as you alluded to earlier, that are starting to hit campus, incoming freshmen, kids that are coming off, for lack of a better term, a gray shirt that are looking to contribute. And then you've also got the schedule we're looking at, and not released yet, not everything set in stone, but what can you tell us about the upcoming home dates that Hokie Nation will have to look forward to in Blacksburg this year?
Well, first off, we're very close to finalizing the schedule. I anticipate that it'll be released probably early next week is my guess. But we've got a nice home schedule. We're going to have Missouri at the Moss Center at the end of November, which will obviously be a huge match. Missouri is their program and what they've done the last several years speaks for themselves. We actually, our only loss last year in a dual meet was to Missouri at their place in their art center. So hopefully we can be on the other end of that this year. But they've got a strong team coming back. We've got Central Michigan coming in, West Virginia coming in, Lehigh, and then a couple of ACC home dual meets as well. So we're excited about the schedule. I think it's going to, provide our fans an opportunity to watch us against some pretty darn tough teams for sure. So it's, we've got some big name schools with Missouri and Lehigh coming in, and then Duke and North Carolina in the ACC. So for the VT fans out there, I've been getting that question a lot. Just stay patient for about another week or so, and that schedule will be released.
Also, Southeast Open, any changes there? Are we sticking with the format that it was last year, Roanoke Civic Center?
It's Roanoke Civic Center, yes. As far as the format's concerned, we'll see. As of right now, I think we plan on doing both the freshman, sophomore, and the open division, but that's always subject to change. But the event will be in that, I believe it's the first Sunday in November 5th at the Roanoke Civic Center.
And also other events on the schedule. We know that the Virginia Duels will be back on the schedule. That first, actually this year would be the second weekend in January. VirginiaDuels.org if you're interested there. And tournament-wise, looking at Las Vegas, anything changing up from last year? Or is it going to be kind of similar to last year's schedule in terms of tournaments and whatnot?
Yeah, we'll be going to Las Vegas and the Virginia Duels. We will be wrestling at Madison Square Garden in December, which is pretty exciting, against Princeton. But yeah, overall, it's pretty similar to last year's schedule. I believe we're going to be going up to the Northeast Duels as well in November. So the start of our season is going to be pretty front loaded, and we've got to be ready to rock and roll in November and December, because we've got quite a few duels and events and quite a few really important and good events that are going to set us up for success, hopefully at the end of the season, for seeding at the NCAA tournament.
Also this year, the NCAA Championships Division I's coming to Cleveland, and you got a big Ohio recruiting base there. Numerous wrestlers have come from Ohio, graduates, incoming guys that are on the team now. Any plans for Hokie events that are going to be centering around the Q and Cleveland this year?
No, we'll do our typical socials. I mean, really haven't started planning quite that far ahead yet, but we always have a social for our fans on Friday evening, and then a one again on Saturday. Typically, we've done our social after the finals. This year, it's going to move to in between the placing matches and the finals, and we're going to move it up a little bit. I think it'll be not quite as late a night for some people, and maybe I think our fans will appreciate that. But yeah, we're excited. I mean, it's driving distance for us. Heck, I grew up about 90 miles from Cleveland, Ohio, so I'm excited to get up there, real familiar with the area. Obviously, the wrestling tradition in western or eastern Ohio is really good, and the whole state of Ohio. So, yeah, it's going to be an awesome event, man. Excited. Hopefully it won't be snowing. That's the only downside possibly I see.
I'll be spending 2 weeks in Cleveland this year because we got the Division IIIs the weekend before. So that joke you've heard about Cleveland, I'll be living it this year. So as far as the schedule goes, fans can check that out. Of course, where the homepage for Virginia Tech Sports at Hokiesports.com. And Coach Robie, as we still live off the leftovers and the brats from the 4th of July, what are some things that we've got on the pipe the rest of July and into August, as we will visit that when we get to it in Fargo. But in terms of other things that fans can just kind of keep their ear out for more information.
Well, a lot of recruiting from our coaches, probably be on the road quite a bit. We do start our wrestling camps. July 12th is our team camp, which is we're excited. It's going to be held in the indoor practice football facility, the new indoor practice football facility here at Virginia Tech. We almost had to move it off campus, but we were able to secure this building, which is one of the nicest in the country of its kind. So going to be really cool to do our team camp in there, and then we'll follow that up with 2 weeks of both intensive camp and a technique camp, a skills and drills camp we call it, and a 30-man training camp. So we'll be busy with that. Our athletes are going to be on campus the entire month of July and through some of August as well, and we'll start back to school August 28th. So it's going to be a big summer for us. Excited to really have our new coaches here. Jared and Frank have just recently closed on their houses and gotten their families here and have really gotten settled in. So excited to have those guys kind of here on a permanent basis. Not that they weren't here a lot before they moved, but it's just going to be an opportunity for them to sink their teeth into the guys on the team and start working with them and start developing them and really see where we can go with this thing. We're excited. We've got a lot of work to do. We're going to have a young team next year, but that's what it's all about. We're ready to roll.
Coach Robie, thanks for another interesting bit of insight here on Inside Virginia Tech Wrestling. Fans, rate, review, subscribe on the podcast and various other things. You know how to do that stuff. And, of course, tweet it out. Coach Robie, thanks again, man.
Thanks, Jason.
Show is part of the Mat Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MatTalkOnline.com.